Hello world and welcome to the second day of DOTS, the Global Innovation Gatherings Impact Summit. My name is Geraldine de Bastien and I'm honored to be part of this global network and presenting some of our work and the work of our members to you today. We're going to start things off with a session on emancipatory technology with 4 amazing women, and followed by a session which will again take you on a little trip around the world, this time to find out how the Global Innovation Gathering has been building up the Careables Project, an open health project focused on bringing solutions to people with special health need cares, so especially people with disabilities. And we're proud to present 3 years of work with Careables to you today. We also have different workshops and meetups in the afternoon, so I hope you'll join those as well, including an education expert meetup happening, a workshop on data narratives, and a workshop on mindfulness and team building. So please do check out the program on our website and enjoy the second day of DOTS.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to our discussion on emancipatory technology in the context of the Impact Summit called DOTS. I am Aleph Kurban from the Goethe University Frankfurt and the Center of Emancipatory Technology Studies, and I'm very happy to host this session today. 3 technology experts agreed to share their knowledge with us and discuss if technologies can be emancipatory, and if yes, from what oppressions do they act emancipatory. So welcome, Georgia, Chinmay, and Linda. Georgia is a Brazilian activist, co-founder, and one of the directors of Instituto Pro Comum, a commons-based organization based in Brazil. Instituto Pro Comum is a non-profit organization that rethinks the role of free culture organizations in the phase of digital transformation. In this vein, the Institute members protect commons and community arrangements and thus prevent enclosure by private and state action. And Chinmay is a technologist and researcher from India. She's the founder of the Bachao Project, which works on the issues of women and LGBTQIA communities. Chinmay has a decade of experience in working on issues of technology and gender. For example, she conducts interdisciplinary feminist research and creates spaces for dialogue. And Linda Bonyo is the founding director at Africa Law Tech and the CEO of Lawyers Hub in Kenya, working on the confluence of law and technology. And driven by the need for sustainable and inclusive tech policy across the African continent, the Lawyers Hub, for example, brings together policymakers and prime movers from 20+ countries to discuss and develop policies on data and elections, artificial intelligence, digital tax, and digital identity. So before we delve into the discussion, I will briefly explain why we are interested in the topic of emancipatory technologies. And then Chinmay, Georgia, and Linda have 5 minutes each to present how they see emancipatory technology in their context and in their work. And after that, we go into the discussion. So the discourses on tech for good, social impact, and technology for development celebrate technologies as solutions to manifold problems. Farmers should be better included in the global market through mobile phone apps. Children should be better educated through digital devices, and pregnant women should gain better healthcare with digital diagnostic tools. But besides these promising effects of technologies, critics claim that structural problems like, for example, an insufficient healthcare system cannot be solved by so-called technological fixes. So therefore, we are confronted with the question of what technologies are able to do and what not. So are technologies able to act emancipatory or not? And in this conversation today, we want to share our experiences in the technology sector of different countries and different continents to highlight the diverse fights that have to be fought for. So for example, decolonialism, legal justice, diversity, better infrastructures. And additionally, our experts give insights into the multiple functions of tech as being emancipatory, but also oppressive, or both at the same time. So as a start, I would like to invite our discussants to present their take on emancipatory tech and their work. And I would ask Georgia to start.
Procomum was created in 2016, and a lot of us were connected to the free software movements in Brazil, but also connected to the cultural policy movement and the value of our cultural diversity, which had another meaning by that time. In 2003, when Lula was elected president of Brazil from the Workers' Party, he chose as Minister of Culture Gilberto Gil, who is a really famous singer as well as a thinker. And Gilberto Gil, as Ministry of Culture, he self-claimed himself, he called himself as a hacker ministry. And what that meant is that he understood technology as something that would be not just emancipating, but also making it even more strong the Brazilian creativity and diversity, specifically coming from the margins. So Brazil is a continental country, and we have a lot of countries in one. And one of his main policies was Pontos de Cultura, so cultural dots, which was a cultural policy that was really innovative and that influenced a lot of other countries and thinkers. That was, he would call that an anthropological doing, so coming from below to above. So instead of creating cultural centers or physical spaces and infrastructures, why don't we just potentialize what is already in the territories, and to these cultural dots, that was things that were already existing, manifestations, ancestrality, technologies that have been developed. We added the layer of free culture. So there was digital culture kits, all based in free software, so that people could produce and upload, not just download and share content and technology. So this is kind of the thinking that came from Procomum, and also understanding that the state was unable to deal with it because the bureaucratic way of dealing with this kind of arrangements, of community-based arrangements, could also led to a lot of them to be, in bad terms because of the whole bureaucracy thing. So I'm just going to share a quick video from one of our also associate founders. She's not part of the team, but she's a counselor, and she's also been part of all this movement with us. And I think she brings some good points for us to question, what do we understand when we're saying technology? So I think it's nice to speak about emancipatory tech, but also what is tech, what is it made for, who invents tech, who is innovative and who is not, and what kind of solutions are we talking about to address what needs for whom. So let me share here.
Diz respeito a bens
Just a
partilhados.
minute.
Comum diz respeito a bens partilhados por uma determinada comunidade. E eu olho para o comum da perspectiva do povo negro, que sempre esteve apartado do Estado e do capital. Então, o Brasil é um país que teve quase 400 anos de escravidão. E depois dessa situação de violência extrema e de expropriação de tudo, a abolição, que muita gente fala de falsa abolição, não estabeleceu condições para que essas pessoas participassem da sociedade. Pelo contrário, a política do Estado brasileiro sempre foi de extermínio. Mas como é que a gente está viva, né? A gente é 54% da população. Se a política de Estado é uma política de extermínio, é porque a gente partilha aquilo que a gente tem. Mas é uma partilha especialmente do axé, da energia vital, da espiritualidade. A gente normalmente fala dos quilombos como a associação de pessoas negras que fugiram da condição de escravizadas no passado. Mas o quilombo permanece como possibilidade de existência, como um mundo possível. Os quilombos do período colonial eram agrupamentos muito sólidos, que recebiam também pessoas indígenas, pessoas brancas pobres, recebiam pessoas em condição de marginalidade, numa sociedade mais inclusiva, em Quilombo, onde as pessoas negras se reúnem e criam condições para a sua própria existência, sempre abertas à interação e a receber outras pessoas que estejam à margem dessa sociedade que sempre nos excluiu. Então é por aí que eu olho o comum. O comum não tem uma dimensão racional, linear. Pelo contrário, diz respeito à vida das pessoas e à complexidade da nossa vida em comunidade.
Yeah. So I liked this video a lot because I think it tells about existence and the premises where we are looking when we're speaking about technology. So we do have at Procomum a lab, as what we call Citizen Innovation Lab. There is a hackerspace there, there is a makerspace there, but there's also an artistic residency, a permaculture lab, a medicinal plant space, a cure and lab. We also have a project of memory and ancestrality. And just wait, because I think the video. And I think it's important to say that what we call citizen innovation, what we defend is that people that are living the problems, embodying the problems, are the ones that have the solution. And the question that Bianca makes is, how are we still alive? When she's asking and when she's giving the context of enslaved and Black people in Brazil, is because they create technologies every day. They create technologies. And this is what I understand as emancipatory tech, is that how can we work as an ecosystem to value and put these kind of inventions, innovative solutions on the spot. This is what I call, when I think about innovation and innovative people, I think about these people that are creating solutions every day, despite the market or the state. And it's everywhere, right? And so at Procomum, we are a experimental lab. We prototype solutions. So we have also a 3D printer, but it's not about that. We say that technology is grass. So it's about creating solutions to life in community so that people can be self-determined and that we can have egalitarian perspective, right? And I think what bothers me the most about tech, the tech discourse coming from Silicon Valley, is that it's not talking about the roots of the inequalities. We've seen that inequalities has just been bigger and bigger throughout the years, even though we are producing more and more wealth. So how is this possible? And I think technology is playing a big role in this divide that is not only digital, not only, it's before that, it's beyond that. It's a social divide, and it's not getting any better. So that would be my first takes. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Before we ask you many questions, we go on to Chinmay's introduction, and I will share her screen.
Hey, would you be kind enough to go to the second screen? I can start from there. Okay. When we think about emancipatory technologies, this is the definition, right? Technologies that allows us to free ourselves. Any freedom will come if we can speak ourselves, if we are free to speak and we are able to speak about our experiences, we are able to label our experiences, right, and share them to the world. So that's what I feel about the power of a technology being emancipatory. I started out as a free software technologist, advocate, and it's been 10 years, or actually over a decade, no more than a decade, that I started working with the idea and notion that technology would free us, would provide us the rights, would make us more vocal, and in a way also be more democratic. So that's how I started as a free software technologist. And then over the years, I started working with communities. I started working with building technology with communities, understanding their needs, and also building from my own perspective as a woman, as a person who is called queer. And I started seeing this world from my lens. I started supporting other people from this lens too. In that moment, I also believed in like building for technology for good. To now, I am a researcher who's looking at what difference has technology made. How much is it freeing us? How much it's not freeing us? Not exactly under the label of emancipatory technology, but in under different labels of like, say, internet freedom, censorship. So that's what my journey has been. So I started with utmost optimism to now where I am feeling 50-50 about this, where I'm in the gray. So that's where I am. It was great when I started out. I had so much optimism because it was the technology community which was growing then. In the 90s, India opened up its economy, which meant the technology sector in India grew, bloomed, created a lot of technologies, also brought in our optimism with it, which is also somewhere I realized blind optimism with it. We had this hope of creating technology which maybe our community or our friends or family would use, and then would change our lives. It did change a lot of lives, but it also brought in a lot of inequality. So that's how I've seen technology. To now, where we are at a stage where technologists in this country are appropriating a lot of things, including like what is open source. They are involved in building all the stacks and monitoring citizens, building surveillance systems, and do it under the name of technology for good. So pardon me if I went from highly optimistic to like very pessimistic when I think about emancipatory technologies. Could we go to the next slide? So for me now, India has two worlds. The two worlds, Aleb, the next slide, please. So the two worlds that India has is one is where there are a bunch of technologists who are working on something like software or technology which would establish like signal with and satellite on the moon, and on the other hand there is a part of my country which does not have access to internet. This access to internet, though we are a country where we have 50% penetration in mobile internet, which means out of 100 people, at least 50 people have connections, and we have around 680 million connections. So which is a lot of connections, internet connections. But a lot of these people cannot access internet because either there's no infrastructure or there is an internet blockade somewhere. We are a country with the highest number of internet shutdowns. This is close to 500 internet shutdowns at this point. So I'm in the same state as my country in two worlds. One where I am looking forward to the newest, the next technology that's out there, but I'm also aware of all the issues that technology itself brings in, and thinking about, is it really emancipatory? Is it helping us free ourselves? Is it helping us speak? Or is it something that is pulling us back? That's where I am at.
Thank you very much, Janai, for your take and insights. Linda, would you go next, please?
Thank you very much. And I would like to speak to, what this means for, for the legal profession and the intersection between law and technology. So just give me a minute. Okay. So I would like to speak to what this means for law and technology in this sense, and the role of technology in enhancing the emancipatory potential of the law in Africa. To look at what law can do and what tech can do and what they both cannot be able to achieve is important. And so I'm going to just take you through this presentation. So next slide, please. So these are comments from a professor who said that the hope for law's facilitation of real social transformation and more social justice have often been disappointed, leading to deep frustration and political backlash. And as a result, the prospects for law's emancipatory potential today appear dim. Those are the words of Professor Bonaventura de Sousa Santos. Sorry if I massacred the name, but I'm not able to really pronounce it well. But I think many times we hope that the law would be able to, technology would be able to fix certain things, and it's not able to. And so within the justice sector, next slide, we realize that there are several ways in which, technology has enhanced the emancipation through the law. So with technology, we have better access to information, and we have more countries coming up now with access to information laws. We also have access to justice, where now you have, more people accessing courts. At the Lawyers Hub and Africa Law Tech, we recently did, we recently had a report on about 22 countries now in Africa using virtual courts to ensure access to justice since the coronavirus pandemic happened. And so it's important to see what would happen with technology and access to justice. We also have now freedom of assembly, where more and more people are gathering online. There are protests that I think have happened before on platforms such as Zoom. And so freedom of assembly, has been enhanced by use of technology. We have, protests now in Africa that are now mostly put together on online platforms. Also, I think on government accountability, now we have, a bit of progress on government accountability that have really benefited from the use of technology and operation of the laws. On anti-discrimination as well, we have this, although more needs to be done, because as we know that artificial intelligence can actually, even improve, it can actually add in more of biases and discriminatory practices, among other things. Next slide. So I thought to look at case studies on illustrating the impact of technology as emancipatory. And we look at mobile phones. The use of mobile phones has been used to capture political violence in Sudan. In 2013, this was one of the ways in which, the political violence in Sudan sort of gained global attention and also got in crucial evidence. We also have the Bring Back Our Girls movement in Nigeria that really used online platforms, and this was worked to help the movement in bringing back the girls. That campaign, I think, is still ongoing, even at very sort of basic level. We also have the launch of virtual courts. In 2020, according to a report, we have 22 countries in Africa that have established virtual court system that have seen access to justice, And we also have the EndSARS campaign in Nigeria, where ordinary citizens went into the streets and used Twitter to mobilize, and Google Forms, for instance, to just get everybody together. And through this social media, the catalyst, this really catalyzed the protest and had almost the entire country going out to protest. Next slide. So we appreciate that, you know, technology is lacking in terms of being an emancipator. And so what's still left within the confluence between law and technology? We still need to use more of legal analytics, you know, for instance, in criminal law, that could be able to prevent, you know, crime, and also just have some peace and order as a result of the use of technology. So technology is still lacking in improving this. We also have the use of government evaluation systems. We still are really lacking on this particular area. And so technology has not emancipated us in that particular sense. We also have the third one on data-oriented legislation. We still do not have, you know, a critical mass and use of technology to ensure public participation in coming up with laws and just having more voices heard in the process of governance. So I think we still have a long way to go, you know, in looking at technology as an emancipator, you know, within the legal ecosystem. And thank you.
Much, Linda, for making the inputs complete. To wrap up a bit, what I found interesting in all your short presentations, I think you all stated a problem that manifests inequality, and the problem is that either private companies or the state controls data and technology. And all in your own ways, you try to circumvent or try to, yeah, I don't know, make technology a bit more freer from the control of state and private companies. Maybe you could shortly say something to it, like how is this control visible in your context, and what is your action against it? Maybe Georgia, would you start, because I know that you don't have so much time.
Yeah. So what I think, since I think we have a range of ways we act, but since I started already with Bianca's video, I'll give an example as to memory as technology. So on the right to memory. And so a lot of the, because a lot of, you know, if the slave people were brought, a lot of them don't know about the, you know, where do they come from, like the past, the ancestrality and the memory has been erased, which is not, it's different from, for example, because Brazil is also a country of immigrants, but it's different, right? And in my family, I am a third generation of a Lebanese immigrant in Brazil. But I know more or less the story because, you know, they came they came because they wanted. Of course, they were running away from the Turks and for the war, but they came, and so I have a bit of access to my own family history, which is different, of course, from the slave people that were brought up from the coast, Benin, Nigeria. And some other countries in the coast of Africa, so the region that we act, the lab, is in the Bay Area, is in the Santos, it's in the port region, so it's the biggest port of Latin America, the Port Santos port, and there it's a metropolitan area of 9 municipalities, and one of which, São Vicente, is considered to be the first village that was created by the Portuguese when they came. And that was, of course, an area that had the indigenous, they were living there before the Portuguese, right? So Tupi-Guarani mostly in the coast area of the southeast, but they were also above. Anyway, and a lot of, and there's a lot of, because it was the port, there's a lot of Black history, you know, in that region, and that has been totally erased. And nowadays, raised to a point where, like, nowadays Santos is considered top 5, I think it's the second or third of the most segregation city in terms of geographical space. So where are the black people living and where's the white people living? So like white people are mostly living in the coast region, and then most of the black people are living in the slums and the stilt. We have the biggest stilt slum there that is above flooding water. And then one of the projects, for example, that we run at the lab is the Memory, Technology and Ancestrality project, which is a mix of, you know, producing content and technology research and prototyping related to Black knowledge, you know, and the Black population in that region. And this has already, I mean, we started this year, and this has already a lot of impact in terms of retelling the story of a region, you know, like you've been there your whole life and you never knew anything, you know, it's not the official history. And the research is bringing a lot of documents of how, you know, Black people are important to that region as architects or thinkers, intellectuals, engineers, and all these kind of things. And also we're doing circles of learning journeys. So, you know, Black audiovisual, Black narratives, Black design, you know, and all of these, we call it technology. And how are we involving this? So always keeping it open and interactive. So it's not a closed. So we involve the whole community, because in the lab we work with communities of practice, right? So we have a community of practice of memory and ancestrality, but we also have a community of practice of open technology and free technologies. And we have a community of practice of designers and art directors, for example. They're kind of all working together and learning together. And from that, we will have new prototypes, new technologies that they're going to be totally influenced by the access of knowledge that they now have, and by this collective thinking and access to memory. And so I think this is a good example of what we say when we say about, you know, and of course it's important data is that I really liked what Chinmay brought you know, we're already thinking about, you know, living in Mars, and we're still trying to understand how we're going to have access to internet to people, right? To actually go to school in the pandemic, which was a big problem in Brazil. To you know, public students to have access to internet to virtually go to school. And who are the producers of technology, you know, that are in the newspapers, you know, and are gaining money from startups and venture capitals? You know, white male, high medium class people that had already have, you know, money in the family and etc. And these are considered, like, if you think about Mark Zuckerberg, Jeff Bezos, all these ones that are dictating where technology is going. Look at them, just look at their faces, look at like what kind of and all these influences what we are living, you know, all these. So that's a bit of the solutions and the actions that we always combine with research and studying together, learning together, and then experimenting, prototyping, creating technology together. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I know that Chinmay and Linda have also something to say to how money dictates tech, and how there's a discrepancy between technology developers and their users, but also between technology developers and the investors, for example. How come that Kenya white investors almost fully invest into white founders and not into local founders? Or Chinmay has something to say to diversity issues. I don't know who wants to go first.
I mean, I could, so, but if you want to go, Linda, that's also fine.
Okay, I was just going to add on the founder issue that, you know, they say that opportunity, that talent is equally distributed, but opportunity is not. And so we've seen, we know with technology, what has happened. We now have, African founders, especially Black founders, coming in to innovate and have startups, but they don't have access to capital. And so capital is mostly white and male. And so we have, the technology hasn't actually fixed the, the access to finance issue. And so you have a lot of this capital even coming in within Africa now, still taken back to the West. If you look at the taxation regimes happening, digital taxation now is actually impacting African founders more than it's impacting founders from the global North. Because now you'd have governments now like Kenya and Uganda introducing social media tax, introducing digital taxation for online platforms, including things like Instagram, when people sell on those platforms. But big tech companies such as Google, for instance, get exemptions under the free trade agreements. And so you would imagine that this tax would affect everybody, or maybe would be, a kinder on local companies, but that's not happening. And so we have been convening discussions around, Black founders, white capital, on how capital is white and founders are Black, and still they don't, benefit from this particular flow of capital. So I think that's one instance where we could see the inequality brought about by technology. And we haven't fully, discussed how artificial intelligence, for instance, still is going to bring in this gap, across I think Africa and basically across the global South, that we are just going to be left out of this particular conversation on digitalization. The discussions around access to education now, you need a device, and that device is not your phone. How are our children going to access education in the long term? And also on different use of our taxes. Countries are having their taxes going to development and public digital goods, on how you have more infrastructure that will benefit the public. But you have countries such as ourselves in Kenya, where we don't consider these public digital goods. And so everybody's looking for their own infrastructure, including electricity, that people are actually getting to sort out themselves by finding their own electricity or using solar, which should primarily be a government function, in that particular sense. So I think technology has come in to even further widen the digital divide.
Yeah, to add to what Linda just said, electricity and internet, two of the basic necessities for building technology in itself. In a country like India, this is again on the onus of people. So if there are very few subscribers, you don't have the infrastructure. Nobody pitches in for the infrastructure, neither the government nor the private sector, and nobody pitches in for like electricity too. It's something that is so primary. Even the devices, there's a huge gap between what access to devices are in, even in my own country, with urban and rural, if you look at it. And if you go with like remote places and more accessible places, it's even worse. So that way, the kind of investments that go in are going into very small pockets of technology, not necessarily to support all forms of technology or all needs of technology. So that increases the divide in a sense. It does not reduce the divide when you are only primarily investing in one new form of technology, which is also something that happens, so that it's not like if there are multiple people building it, they all get invested. For example, let's say for privacy and security apps that we talk about, which are mostly used by human rights defenders around the world. I'm just speaking about a small domain and a small sector. Where here, a lot of European and American developers are invested or funded rather, and they don't understand the needs of human rights defenders around the world. But then there is a small money associated with this, and only one or two get the chance or the opportunity to get funded. This is the same for technology across different domains. Once somebody gets funded or a few people get funded, it's hard for you to have diverse points of view or diverse way of building a technology, because you don't have that first access or the privilege of the first access, which increases the gap, which tends to like not listen to the other side, which tends to not become a place where they're inviting people to provide input. So it just increases the gap.
Thank you very much. I think exactly this problem, that there's no diversity at the beginning of technology development, is also referring to Georgia's or the Pro-Commun approach to develop technology, whatever that is, if it's digital or not, from a community approach and collaboratively. Yeah, I would wonder if you could delve more, because I note you wrote a manual how to build tech more inclusive. Could you shortly just tell us something about this?
It is more like a dummy's guide for like thinking about some obvious things when you're building tech. I wrote it because as a technologist, there was no one who was telling me what to look for, what to think about. But when I started working with communities, I realized there are certain things that you could use as a framework. Obviously, just following the manual doesn't mean your technology has everything that makes it inclusive or diverse, but it's just that there are certain obvious things that you could do as a technologist, as a person who's building technology, that can be followed, like looking at certain checkpoints when you're designing, who you are including in your design team. Even the fact that who you're including in your teams is something that people don't think about when they're building. They just build as one cohesive unit or one person, and then go from there and start thinking of how can they build for different people, and that is a problem there. So that's something that we wanted to highlight, provide like a guideline for people to look at different stages of building technology and look at what they can do, what are the steps they can proactively take in building technology. So this is as far as it can go. But from what our experience says, what Georgia says is right. You have to include the person who you're building the technology from the very beginning, and that person should have the lead in building that technology. That's when the inequalities reduce.
Georgia, would you like to add something to it? I was just like making sense of what you said myself.
Yeah, I think I don't know. I think what Chinmay said is so true, and I think it's also a mode that I can relate to her a lot in terms of sharing our learnings. You know, I don't expect that we all know everything that we should be doing, but I do expect that we have a commitment to share our learnings and our mistakes as a part of also creating collective knowledge in this field. You know, I think that a lot of techie people that are open to it, and I think, I mean, we are fighting, or if you don't want to use fight metaphors, but we are dealing with really strong structures, you know, that are really dominant, and they have been there, and they of course they have a great intelligence and technology of pursuing and staying in the same place so that nothing changes. And I'm so grateful that, you know, we have here women that are acting in several fields, because I think law is essential in changing law and thinking about law and the role of law and also the role of technologists, as Chiang Mai brings, also the role of researchers like you, Aleph. I think we need everything, everybody, you know, in this thinking. And so just to say that at Procomum, we also create a lot of toolkits, just like Chiang Mai, you know. I mean, because okay, so if you're doing something that we are learning by doing, so one of our main values is that we should also collect all this data and information and turn this into knowledge, and that we can share, and we share in Creative Commons. So in our website, we have a lot of methodologies, and most of them, or maybe probably all of them, are also bilingual, Portuguese, English, or trilingual, Portuguese, English, and Spanish. And I have seen a movement in Brazil that is still, you know, not so big, but even from funders that, you know, to give money that, I mean, for example, applications to only Black people or only Black women, you know, exclusive, or that only give money if you have diversity on the board or on the team. So, I mean, I know it's not enough. We're talking about urgent matters. We're talking about the lives of the people, but I have seen some change. So I'm not totally skeptical, although I am aware that it's a really big thing that we are dealing with, and they have power and money. So.
Thank you. Maybe coming back to the law issue, Linda, because I found interesting that we talked about erasure of knowledges, erasure of histories. But I mean, if I got it right, in the case of the Huduma bill, there's also erasure of citizens or citizenship. Marginalized people get erased by efforts of digital identification. Maybe you could explain that in the case of Kenya, Linda.
Yeah, in the case of Kenya, we were trying to borrow from Chiang Mai's, you know, country. We wanted to bring in the digital identity system. So it's called Huduma number, which is like the I hope I can pronounce it well. So the government has tried this. They introduced it last year, in 2019. We had there was a challenge to it in courts, because what it did was that it introduced a law that you couldn't be able to access certain services, government services, without having this digital identity number. So what has happened through the process is that the courts indicated they needed to have a data protection law, which they did not have. And two, that data should not be centralized, because the data that they were bringing on board included DNA information, which we have seen in India. We have now DNA cloning, which is also not great for people's safety. And so what the Nubians, who are stateless people in Kenya, went to court saying that this would further marginalize them from opportunities. And we have seen what happens with when government mandates something. You can be able to attend school without that digital identity card. And that means that children would not actually get education. You can be able to access emergency healthcare. Our constitution in Kenya requires that, you know, you have a right to emergency healthcare. If you got an accident, then you need to be treated fast. Then they can ask about other questions later. But this actually meant that we also cannot access healthcare in that sense. So I think Kenya would be a great point of learning for all of us, that we should not use digital identity systems to further marginalize people and to further exclude them, even from the digital economy, because without a digital ID, you will also not be able to trade. And so inclusive digital economies is really important to us. And that's why at the Lawyers Hub, we're really keen on policy issues. How do you have more inclusive policies that will ensure everybody gets on the digital train? Because otherwise it's gonna just be like 1980s and 1970s again, where just a few countries would achieve, you know, that fourth industrial revolution, and not all of us achieve that particular industrial revolution.
Thank you. Chinmay, I don't know if you have to add something as a referred country.
No, I think Kenya did great with the fight. The insistence of data protection and the insistence of not making it centralized was such an important decision. For us, we suffered for the lack of having those restrictions, the lack of enforcement in the country, because there was a strong will for pushing it. So a lot of people suffered from it. So it was tied to our welfare schemes, which meant that if you are from a marginalized group, especially if you are below poverty line and you're trying to get access to food, you have to have access to those digital ID systems, and you are supposed to authenticate through that. This also led to a lot of deaths because they could not access food. So it has done a lot of harm in my country, and I've seen it. It has brought about the discourse of citizenship, and we've been now fighting the issues of citizenship, where we have also the next thing that's being brought in, which is NRC, which is also an additional registration of citizens. Not that digital identity was good enough, because it was not good enough, apparently. So we have more systems brought in just to marginalize people, to also meet an end of religious extremism in a very, I would say, not a straightforward way. So that's what is happening in my country. So I would say, Linda, congratulations to Kenya for doing that. Honestly, we still don't have a data protection bill, and we have the nightmare of it going at this point. So the importance of lawyers and the legal community working with the technology community is also very, very much there. Without the laws to support the technology we build, we are not able to provide the protections. That's what I would say.
Does someone of you want to refer to that? Because I just saw that the time is flying. Linda, do you want to say something to it again?
I was just going to agree that we don't need to exclude lawyers from this conversation. My thinking has been that, you know, policies around technology and innovation has been taken up by non-lawyers for a long time, because lawyers did not engage, you know, and so we have been encouraging them that you need to get on board and ensure there are inclusive policies, and let the technologies do their work, so that you're not doing human rights work when you could actually be innovating a little bit more. And so I hope that, you know, lawyers across just get on board, figure out what your tech ecosystem needs and stand up for them, and let them be peaceful enough to innovate, because I think people innovate more when they're more peaceful and they're not fighting this wars that lawyers should fight.
Thank you. I think before I wrap up our session, I would ask you, or each of you, to make a short statement. How do you see the double-edged sword technology? So what is the conclusion, maybe, or is there any conclusion?
Well, I don't see any conclusions, but I have been thinking while listening to all of you is that even though, you know, we are living really hard times, I really appreciate that we are many also, and we are looking at it from different standpoints and points of view. And I think at Procomum and me personally, we are always looking at, you know, how can we turn this into a unlearning journey as well as a learning journey. So what kind of things do we have to unlearn in order to, you know, create innovative ways, but innovation coming from citizen or person, equality, right? I like a lot like what Spivak says about privilege and how it insulates you, and it's a form of ignorance as well. And I think that the tech industry is super insulated and totally disconnected from, you know, or I mean, sometimes consciously disconnected of the world needs. And then we need more people on this, you know, putting our head to work and creating solutions. So just thank you, and hoping that we meet soon again also to exchange more. I learned a lot today.
Thank you. So as much as tech is important, it's also important we have the right checks and balances, which means that not only technologists have to be involved, everybody has to be involved. And technologists should not be of one kind. Technologists should come from every community, and we have to support that. How we're going to make that happen is upon us. That's the effort that we need to put in. I say we, I say me, because I think that we come from, at least me, I come from a relatively privileged position, and I should be putting that effort to support people who could come into tech and make the difference. That's on all of us. There's a lot of work to be done. Technology, there is a lot of potential for it to be emancipatory, but at this point, we are letting it be driven by somebody's greed or motive, and that needs to change. How it changes is a big question, but whatever effort we can to put to stop it from being driven by greed or motive is important, and we need to continue to do that. That's what I would say. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think for me, I would want to say that you should not leave anyone behind. That if we don't leave anyone behind, then technology will be emancipatory. That we will think through who are we not having on the table, who does not have access to internet, who does not have access to data, who does not have access to public digital goods. I think that conversation would ensure that we all at some basic level, you know, how we talk about basic universal income, we need to talk about basic access, that what does basic access mean, and basic access to technology. I think that's the conversation we need to have, and then we get people on board. And also too, that we need to partner, we need to cross-collaborate between disciplines, and between continents as well, and see what drawings could we have from each other, what exchange, including policy exchange, can we have with each other, and ensure that you know, we have laws that are inclusive and that get more people on the digital economy, and also to bridge the digital divide. Thank you.
Thanks for your closing words. It was really an insightful conversation, and for me it would have gone, or it would be cool to have a longer discussion about it. But to sum up briefly, what I gained from our conversation is that technology is anything but a neutral tool. It is political. Technology is political. And yeah, therefore, as you all said, technology in general, or technology development in specific, is ambivalent. So on the one side, technology can create emancipatory spaces, like the inclusion of marginalized people, be they marginalized by the state, colonial knowledges, patriarchy. But exactly these oppressive systems, they also represent the danger of technologies. For example, when technology implemented to achieve security of citizens turns into the ability for the state to control citizens even more, or when investment in technology development excludes local startups, or when mostly male and white tech developers build technologies for others. So these are the dangers which reproduce the same structures of oppression, I would say. So that means tech for good has not always a social impact, or a good one. And I think you showed that yeah, practices like claiming the right for data, the importance for diversity and local knowledges is a way out, but technology can't be the only device, can't be the only solution. There must be, as you all emphasized, transdisciplinary collaboration, unlearning oppressive structures, forcing us to unlearn them, but also for the minority world to be critical about the whiteness, for example, their privileges. Yeah, so I think you all made the claim for community-based solutions and collaboration. So I really want to thank you three that you took your time to share your experience and your knowledge. So thank you very much, Georgia and Chinmay and Linda. Yeah, and I hope to see each other soon.
Thank you very much.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.
On Open Health, we would like to share with you the video of one of our members, Kumasi Hive, in Kumasi, Ghana, and show you how they have been servicing their community and trying to provide solutions during the COVID pandemic.
My name is Gertrude Marinago, and I'm with the Projects and Operations team at Kumasi Hive. At the Hive, our mission is to create equal opportunities for the Ghanaian youth. We achieve this by providing them training in entrepreneurial, digital and technical skills. We support our local community by equipping them with relevant skills in emerging technologies such as robotics, Internet of Things, artificial intelligence, and web development. Again, Kumasi Hive supports budding startups with funding to scale up their businesses. SMEs are given support through our incubation and acceleration programs. Our activities at the Hive are focused on innovation, creativity, and women empowerment through capacity building that makes us special. Another thing that makes us unique is that we are among the few hubs in Ghana with a makerspace. On impact making, we equip beneficiaries of our training programs with the necessary skills needed to create job opportunities for themselves, thereby promoting entrepreneurship. Through our STEM education programs, we also impact the younger generation for the future. We faced a number of challenges this year. COVID-19 happened unexpectedly, and that negatively impacted some of our operations. Most of our training programs done in person had to be moved to virtual platforms, and that afforded us the opportunity to digitize our training programs to reach a wider audience. As a not-for-profit organization, most of our program funds are dependent on donor support. These funding were either delayed or diverted to support COVID-19 relief projects, and as a result, crippled some projects. That notwithstanding, we embarked on other projects, key of which is the Makers Assemble project, where low-cost materials were used to design and manufacture some COVID-19 relief items, including an ICU bed, face shields, and contactless infrared thermometer guns. These items were donated to hospitals and frontline workers. Day in, day out, we create impact by our activities, whether through training or working on projects. Kumasi Hive is the pace setter for innovation in Ghana. Kumasi Hive, connect, innovate, grow.
Was ich hier super cool finde, ist, dass es nicht profit-, sondern werteorientiert ist und man tatsächlich einfach das Leben von Menschen verbessern kann.
Willkommen zur Open Health Academy! Wir entwickeln in kleinen Teams Hilfsmittel und Lifehacks, die das Leben wirklich einfacher machen.
Von der Idee bis zum funktionierenden Prototyp.
Sven zum Beispiel fährt jetzt Fahrrad. Und, macht Spaß, Sven? Ja, total. Was auch Spaß macht? Unsere Lösung, mit der jeder Rolli zum E-Roller-Rolli wird.
Du musst es einfach nur machen.
Und wenn es dann funktioniert, machen wir es für alle zugänglich.
Nachbaubar.
Open Source für alle.
Außergewöhnlich, oder?
Es macht total Sinn, ein Produkt zu entwickeln mit der Person, die es auch benötigt.
Endlich mal ein Projekt, wo du nicht überlegst, irgendwie, was soll das Ganze eigentlich, sondern
einfach Sachen machen.
Du hast keine Lust, Ideen für die Schublade zu entwickeln? Dann mach doch bei uns mit.
Ich finde die Open Health Academy deswegen so großartig, weil sie zeigt, wie lame die Industrie ist. Es kann doch eigentlich nicht sein, dass Hobby-Produktentwickler sich bessere Ideen überlegen, als das, was ich in jedem Sanitätshaus finde.
The Caribou's Assistive Tech Kumasi project seeks to empower people living with disabilities by removing the barrier of the lack of assistive devices. The project is in 2 phases, training and co-creation, which culminates in a hackathon and pitching summit, manufacturing and incubation. Trainees for the program have been selected. They have been taken through intensive and interactive training sessions on product design, 3D modeling and fabrication, and material selection. This training is done in person and virtually. A virtual challenge to engage and evaluate the skills of trainees in 3D modeling and fabrication and material selection has been launched, and trainees are working on mini projects in teams. Teams will develop a universal doorknob lever that easily converts a standard doorknob into a lever handle. People with difficulty gripping a standard doorknob should find this adapted lever handle an easy way to open a door. The handle should be ideal for anyone who has weak hands, osteoporosis, or arthritis. Designs by each team will be shared on all our social media platforms for our online community vote for the best.
sou a Rama Bárbara e minha parceria com Criatura começou com um trabalho de arquitetura, paisagismo e intervenções urbanas, isso antes da pandemia. E paralelamente a isso, eu já vinha desenvolvendo há 8 anos um trabalho na Trama Inventiva, que era a criação de produtos no viés ecológico, materno, feminino. Quando chegou o momento da pandemia, a gente começou a pensar novas soluções para continuar o nosso trabalho, ao mesmo tempo não oferecer mais riscos e obedecer às determinações, né, isolamento e de distanciamento social. O material, ele primeiramente é destinado todo bruto para a Casa Criatura, onde lá tem a base das máquinas de corte a laser. Esse corte é feito por uma equipe, que no caso é o Coletivo 3D. Eu recebo esse material e faço a esterilização dele. A montagem, foi sendo desenvolvida, foram sendo desenvolvidos vários modelos. Então, no início tinha outros processos de colagem, de peças, e a gente foi melhorando cada vez mais simples, mais confortável. Então, a montagem dele é feita rapidamente e a gente consegue ter uma boa produção para dar realmente vazão a essa grande demanda que a sociedade está tendo. O foco é que realmente a gente consiga atender mais as populações mais necessitadas. Ou seja, a nossa intenção é sempre baratear realmente esse custo para que ele possa ser acessível e que possa realmente servir como uma solução para o dia a dia das pessoas. Uma grande revolução, né? Porque se antes a gente ficava muito à mercê das tecnologias estarem concentradas realmente nas grandes indústrias, nas empresas, quando isso chega ao acesso, né, das pessoas que se interessam por tecnologia, que podem inclusive pegar uma tecnologia que já está desenvolvida e desenvolver seu próprio protótipo em cima daquilo que já está ali, isso é uma coisa muito realmente revolucionária. Aquelas pessoas que precisam realmente estar na rua trabalhando, que não tem essa opção de estar em casa se resguardando, então são essas pessoas que a gente visa atender para que fortaleça realmente essa base da sociedade que precisa de uma atenção especial.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to this session. My name is Georgia Nicolau. I am from Brazil. I am part of this amazing network called Global Innovation Gathering. And today, this session is part of the DOTS program, which is a summit made by and from the network of Global Innovation Gathering. So here in Brazil, I run an organization called Instituto Procomum. We have been part of GIG since the beginning. including since even we were a former organization, we were already participating in this network. GIG started in 2013 as a lounge in the Republica event, and with hubs mainly from Africa, Asia, and also Latin America, and also but also Europe and US, always with the aim of putting creative people together that are developing solutions for social problems. And we are a network of hubs everywhere, and we are all working with development of technologies, being either socio-technologies or just other kinds of technologies to solve problems that are in our territories, but also cooperating translocally and internationally. And today we're going to talk about a specific project, which is Caribous, which was something that was quite an example of a transnational cooperation to address certain issues related to society and technology. Procomum is based in Santos. We have a space, you can call it a hub, but we call it a citizen lab or a citizen innovation lab. And in our space, we work with a commons orientation, let's say. And our mission is to build a commons world with the different people and different knowledge. We value diversity of epistemologies and narratives, and access to knowledge, but also production of knowledge. We do have a hackerspace and a makerspace inside this space, but we also have an artistic residency, and we have communities of practice that range from zero waste to intersectionality of LGBTQI plus and class, for example, solidarity economy, conscious consumption. We have a school of arts, a school for social entrepreneurship. So we range in a variety of plugins, all to build to be a platform of networks that are wanting to transform and create a more equal world. And I'm not alone today. I'm really glad that I'm here with my great partner, Ricardo Ruiz. Ruiz has been our partner since forever. We've been collaborating, but specifically today, this year, with Caribous project that you'll hear more soon. We had a great exchange between the Northeast, where he's located, and Southeast, where we are located. So welcome, Ricardo. Thank you. And please introduce yourself, your amazing work, and what is that we are doing here today.
Okay, Georgia, thank you very much. It's always nice to be with you here and with everyone that's watching us. And I'm also part of the Caribous, and just like Georgia said, I'm from Brazil, and this is quite interesting, the GIG network, the South-to-South collaboration, and you can see our round dots, and that used to be physical some years ago, but now, let's see next year, and it's all about this relationship, this collaboration between the South initiatives leading with citizen innovation or social innovation, and all these different kinds of innovative entrepreneurship around the globe. DOTS last year took part in Nakuru, countryside of Nairobi, and just like Georgia said again, it's interesting to note that Olinda, where we are established, and Santos are both metropolitan areas of important cities in the country, So more than just the South-to-South collaboration, is the collaboration between the peripheries, the margins, because we always know it will happen in the center, but it starts in the borders. So it's nice to be in the borders, doing that collaboration and exchanging ideas and knowledge. This panel specifically is quite interesting for me because it's the project we've been developing the last year together with, not just with Procomum, but with, 10, maybe more hubs around the globe developing products for healthcare, you know, and not products as the market thinks about products, but products developed to fit the person and to be developed together with the person, together with the doctors and designers. To talk a little bit more about Careables, I would like to invite Fadia here. Fadia is also part of the geek community and part of Careables. Thank you very much for being here with us tonight, or this afternoon, maybe this morning, Fadia. And be welcome. Please introduce yourself.
Hello, Ricardo. Hello, Georgia. It's so lovely to be here on the second day of DOTS. I'm Fadia El-Garib. I come originally from Cairo, Egypt. I'm currently working on the Careables team, more based in Berlin, the office in Berlin, as part of the Gig Network. I would like to talk about how the Careables interest me in the first place. I believe that Careables is about transforming the mindset around healthcare to something that's more open. That is basically the main motto that we stand for in Careables. And I feel that this process of transformation is what is very interesting. How could you manage to make communities transform their mindset onto the basic healthcare that they ought to receive, especially groups that are not in the center, that are marginalized. Coming from Egypt, where we ourselves are in a transformative phase, it's super interesting to see how can we change the culture around healthcare. Yeah, and it's been super delightful to work with all these global partners all around the world and to see things happening and try to just bring the people to share that knowledge also. The idea that, you know, some makerspace in Ghana could learn from an experience of this other space in Nepal or in Brazil, where you are, Ricardo and Georgia, has been magnificent to watch as a process. So this to me is an idea of a platform. This is what Careables stands for. It's that platform where different spaces, different individuals are working on that specific topic that is related to the healthcare and exchanging knowledge in that sense.
Amazing, thanks, Fadia. And today I think that which is really nice. So let's say the title of this session is Global Open Source Healthcare. How can you support the community around your hub with Careables? And I think that both me and Ruiz, we have really interesting stories to tell, and that we can relate to, but that are also quite different because he lives in one context and I live in another one. Even though we're in the same country, we have a lot of differences. And we also have a lot of videos to show. It has been an intense year. And I don't know if you both agree with me, but I have the feeling that Careables kind of predicted the moment that we were going to leave, because when the project started, you know, talking about open technology, talking about the relationship with health and open technology and a people-centered health, it was before the pandemic, but of course, a lot of the crises that we've seen after the pandemic were already there, right? So our relationship with health, our relationship with technology, the fact that we don't have a technological divide, but we do have a social divide that, of course, influences the technological divide. And I think that for my perspective and for Procomum perspective, the fact that now we're having a race for a vaccine that are all patented, and that Global South is one more time gonna be, you know, paying for it, for the global trade agreements, and that we don't have an open source vaccine. I think it already says a lot about how this way of living of ours see health and see the importance of health and technology, right? So the race for investing money in technology. So I think I welcome a lot this project Caribous, because it gave, I think, the perspective of talking about health and talking about technology, and more than that, producing health and technology in contexts that maybe we wouldn't be making this kind of conversations, right? Yeah, so tell me.
Especially bringing to the table the idea of the open source into the health and technology. You know, this is fundamental. This is basic of life. And if you think the future to come, that what we're going to be in 2030s, 2040s, you know, when we will be mass producing food in small places, small printers around the globe, you know, will this food be open source? You know, the medicines, if they are not open source, the vaccines, they rely on policies and politicians, you know, and how the open source community can really got into this movement of medicine and health and care for the others and care for yourself, I think is the quite important, the Caribous program, and how it can help the community not only around the hubs, but in a even broader sense, you know, in a planetary landscape.
Yeah.
What I think is also interesting is to study how the existing healthcare system is not serving, basically, it's not catering for the need of so many groups. And thus comes out the very supposedly normal solution is that health is open for everyone. And basically all this standardized production of products that are related to the health care system has proven to be not catering to, for example, the needs of people with disabilities. So to bring those different stakeholders together, to think of the designer, to think of the person in need of that design, and to bring both perspectives together and to see the product and the process that comes out of it, I think is the core of what Caribous is about. So it's no longer that the manufacturer is manufacturing what they need to do, and they're getting into this whole capitalist system of production and making profit, regardless of the user, basically the end user that is going to use that thing. It's super interesting to see what happens when we bring the designer and the person in need, and how does this brainstorming session happen, how both of them communicate with different languages, whether the technical language of this designer or the person who is looking to improve how they live their daily lives. And we've seen that in the products that have been produced in the past years, which are documented on Welder, for example. Some of them are the wheelchair product that we later, that is also present on the platform, and maybe we'll talk about later, or the Glypho, this invention that was made, to basically help children with certain disabilities grow, something as simple as that, or to be able to express themselves in that sense. So yeah, that to me is a really interesting point to think about when we talk about the Caribou as a platform. It's also the process of documentation. So what we can see here, for example, throughout this platform, this is a platform that is made to document hardware, basically the design process, and using this platform, you can go from zero, basically having nothing, to 3D printing a product that could help the local community, for example, without having to depend on corporations or having to have a lot of money to buy expensive devices. Ricardo, I remember there was also one of the products here, which was the hat. And that had a very interesting story. It was invented during the time of the pandemic as it started. So maybe you can tell us more about how did that go for the space there for Casa Criatura, for example, and how did they handle this pandemic, having been part of Carables also beforehand?
This is a quite interesting story, Faja. I would be glad to share, because the idea of this hat, but not only those hats, we made a different formats of hats. For example, this one here, that we call it the Dub Shield, you know? So we have here the Dub Shield for people with dreadlocks, but we also have turbans for women, you know? We have a protection here. And the hat shield, that is the kind of shield the fishermen use here in this part of Brazil, you know? So at some point, we realized that the Black Brazilian population, that is half of the country, and that was the ones that need to go work, they need to protect as well. We need to protect our community much higher than just, you know, the traditional ways. So how could you protect with style, you know? Because if the turban, why do you use a turban? You're from Egypt, you know? You want to be, look, I'm with a turban, respect me, you know, with style. This is the main thing, because even the word, I know you have this lawyer background in your life, and even the word immune, it came from the lawyers, you know, it came from the judiciary system, because the immune were the ones that didn't need to pay taxes in the Greek Empire or things like this. So they are the immune, you know, and everyone else was the desmuni. So after Pasteur and all these things of vaccines and this thing, they brought the term from advocacy to the health sector and bring the immune, this idea of the Fausto of Goethe, you know, the Occidental idea of the viral man, the white viral man, immune to everything, it doesn't pay taxes, it's friend of the king, you know, and this idea of the immune is what this pandemic brings to a tone, you know, like, and what about the desmuni? You know, the Minister of Health of Brazil said yesterday that if we have demand, we will buy a vaccine. It's a whole country, a demand enough, you know, so it's quite interesting to always notice the political side behind these situations, you know?
This actually leads me to ask you, how do you think Carables, how would you identify the role Carables played in interacting with the local community where you are? So, you know, we've seen, for example, this whole products that have been produced in the past year, and it would be interesting to know how was Carables perceived at the beginning, and whether people understand what it stands for. How does the space itself help the people there, if you think it helps in any way?
Yeah, I think that just to recap a bit, we started the year having an event in Olinda. So I went to Olinda and we made together an event with Casa Criatura, which is the hub where Ricardo works and builds the networks. And it's really a different context, because like they are so and it was really, really well, let's say, perceived for the community. So we had a lot of people there from the public health sector, but also from NGOs, architects and collectives and creatives, etc., etc. and people were already doing stuff, right? And I think that's really important to say, like both me and Ricardo, we have a long story of working also with open tech and open access to knowledge in general. So not only tech, but also this concept of, free culture that we call the free cultures. Procomum considers itself a free culture organization. When we say free, we don't mean free beers, right? Which is different. We mean free as in freedom, which is quite different from free beers. And it's totally connected to the commons, which is it's about ownership, but it's also about co-ownership, and it's about creating solutions and from self-determined communities. So in our case, in Santos, we had a whole plan of involving the territory around the space, because our space is in downtown, where it's a really vulnerable space, but it's also a mixture of things such as, Olinda also, even though it's a totally different urban context, it's the same. So you have different things happening, like commerce and also drug users coexisting with low infrastructure for housing, for example. But of course, our plans of involving the territory around were not so succeeded, because the pandemic brought the need of us to look at community in others also senses. In Procomum, we always say that we work with 3 levels of community. So the community around our hub, territorially around our hubs, the community of creatives that are creating the communities of practice in the lab, and the community of commoners such as you, Fabio, and Ruiz. You are also our community, right? We are also part of the same network. And we work with these 3 layers of community all the time. And I think that what the pandemic brought was really, a sense of rapid response. So in the end, I think what is really interesting is that Carables was working as a platform. So institutionally, maybe, people were not saying, well, I'm doing a Carables, I'm working for Carables. But Carables supported actions that were really, really rapidly emerging, such as soon as the pandemic started, really in the beginning of the year, our working group of hackers at the lab joined themselves with other hackers from the region and started producing face shields. And Carables supported that action. So we cannot say that Procomum made that action, or even that Carables made that action. We all supported the action because people, they were already doing things. And I think this is what we are saying when we're saying of the power of communities, of reaction, of self-determined communities working with resources and with protocols, right? So this is one thing that Carables supported, for example. And then another thing that I think is really nice also bringing it up is the multi-parameter low-cost monitor. So Fabio had this project, and he couldn't find partners in his university and etc. He comes from peripheries of São Paulo as well, and he applied for our emergency lab response that we created with also the support of Carables. And his story is just amazing. And he makes this multi-parameter monitor that can be used even in war situations that are super low cost. It's like $20. And let me show a video of him. Oh, he's here also in the. Ricardo, can you put for me this? He's here in Welder. Look, I'm gonna put in the chat his link to the welder, and Rafael is just an amazing person doing something out of his room. He's super shy, and he was doing that in his room. He was looking for people to connect, and during the emergency lab, he worked with collaborators and mentors. Ruiz was one of the mentors also. And then he stayed in our network. He never went out. So every new thing that we were doing, I can share my screen. Everything that we were doing, he was also doing together. So he came for the Maker Gathering, and now he's working with one of the people from Ruiz communities. And now he writes me all the time saying that he's like with ideas of creating an open source city. And I told him I would introduce him to Stephen Kovacs. And I mean, he's now all over the place and doing other things. And he came all the way to Santos to deliver the monitor. And then now the monitor is at the exhibition that we are doing at the Arte no Dique. So we are doing an exhibition in another NGO that works with children in the biggest stilt slum of Latin America. And a stilt slum is that slums that are flooded. And Arte no Dique is a really important NGO. And we are doing the exhibition there. And then Danielle, that is part of our network, created a whole scenario also telling Rafael's story and how Rafael's story ended up building a monitor multi-parameter that is low cost and open access. So I think, how would, like when people wrote the Caribous project, that was just a form, super bureaucratic for European Union, because I know that all applications for European Union are super bureaucratic. When you're like writing this project there with like a consortium of like 7 organizations and, universities, etc. And the fact that it reached people like Rafael, for example, and all of us, I think this is really amazing. And I think for us, like for me personally, it's about, so Rafael is never gonna be out of us again. So he's now community also. And I think that that's really important to say, what we are saying when we're speaking about community. And I think like one of our work is really to be sewing all these networked communities and putting them together. And I'm sure also Ruiz has also a lot of great stories to tell.
I'm muted. It's the new phrase of the century. All right, so we were very focused on our local context, but Caribous also having other countries, other hubs. So this is the video from Nepal that I think is quite important and quite interesting. The work Baha have been doing in Nepal in the last years, together with GIG, and just like Georgia said, with support from Caribous, it's quite transforming their community also. So I just need to find the play button. It's here, so I'll share my screen with everyone. It will be much.
Hello everyone, hope you're all good. Well, it has been some time since we started working with Caribous, and it has been an amazing journey so far. In the world of competition, Caribous has opened a new possibility with an open source platform that's completely related to health. This is something that's helping countless people with different health problems. Along with this, to reach out to the community level, Caribous is exhibiting various products, which in itself is a really good thing. Well, now talking about the pandemic, a better side of the pandemic was when it hit and the world was locked down. People started looking for creative ways to meet their needs and help those in need. Knowing about the Caribous family and well, the platform beforehand has helped with directly discussing about the ideas and also getting feedback. So to be honest, The exposure has been extraordinary.
Because we would like her to tell about the exhibition that Caribous created, which was something amazing because it was several hubs at the same time. And so you just saw the video of the exhibition that happened in Nepal, which is a part of the Caribous. So like we all did a lot of things throughout the year, and now it was also a way of showing what we did and involving even more people. So maybe Fadia, could you give us like some words about the exhibition?
Yes, absolutely. So I can talk about the exhibition from my side, which was basically coordinating between all these different hubs around the world. So we have the exhibition happening or has happened in 7 different countries or cities, to be more accurate. So the exhibition was the idea of reaching out at the end of this year. So
Okay, I think Fadia is probably the internet is telling her to go to sleep. And so if she returns, then we can ask her to continue speaking about the exhibition. But maybe we can give an example of the exhibition with Danielle's preparation for it, which is the one I can share my screen here. So so this is Daniel. He is an art director and I don't know, inventor, really. And he works. He is part of our community. He's part of the community working group that we called Inventions. So he invents things, and he made the art design for the exhibition that we also did. Basically, everything is upcycled, and he kind of made like a movie telling the stories of both face shoots. So this is the story. And this is the movie of Rafael's life that began in the periphery of São Paulo until he created the parameter monitor. So, and this is this stayed at the exhibition. Let me show you. Some pictures. Let me show here. So this is how it looked in the exhibition, right? Here.
The sound is good.
So this is the exhibition, and at the NGO that I just told you about in the beginning, it's still like this is when we were doing it. So this is how it looked. So what Danielle did was really tell the story as like in a movie of both the face shields, how it began, and you could open here, kids could open here, and it would be written. And here is the story of Rafael's life also. And so this is one example. This is Rafael. So this is one example of, you know, the exhibition that Fadia was speaking. I just saw that she came back. Hi.
This is also one of the examples that when you are writing a project, you don't feel, you know, how can you imagine that a project written as Caribou would become a theater of upcycled material, you know? This, I think, is incredible, really incredible. So please, Falia, tell us a little bit more about the exhibition.
I think her connection is bad, so maybe let's try one more time. Yeah.
Yes, great. Let's try one more time. I don't know where I stopped exactly, so I'm going to start from somewhere. So as I was saying, so coming to an end now, to the end of funding of the project for now, it was important to start showcasing the products that has been produced, and it was also interesting to see that in terms of the interaction between the hub and the local community, and how could these products and the principles of what Caribou stands for, from open source, free design, people collaborating together to come out with a product, how could it be showcased in these different spaces? And given the very, very special circumstances that we all live in at the moment, it was also tricky because we planned the exhibitions before the pandemic had started. So the idea was to keep it as decentral as possible, not only in terms of that exhibition happening in different parts of the world. As I was saying, it's happened in 6 to 7 cities so far, but also to see if these exhibitions or these hubs could exchange what they have done with the other hubs. And it's been a very, very interesting process to coordinate so far. So we've had the posters created, the different hubs showcasing the different products. And also we've had people making videos talking about the hub itself and its role. As we can see here, that is happening in Kumasi through the amazing Kumasi Hive space, maker space. So this is one of the exhibitions that happened so far. We've also had an amazing exhibition that we showed previously, happened in Nepal, Kathmandu. So, and that really constitutes the first step, hopefully, in a longer road of more hubs coming on board and more interaction with the local community, and seeing how, to me, what's very interesting always is how could you transfer that knowledge. And since we live right now, and even more because of the corona, we've been more online and we've been communicating more and doing these kind of webinars and doing these kind of summits. So it's interesting to see if that same platform could be used to exchange other kinds of knowledge that could help build things. And that is what is exciting to me always to see. So, and I know, for example, that both youth spaces did the exhibition. So maybe you can go a little bit more on how was the experience having hosted the exhibition in Casa Cariatura, Ricardo, for example.
Just like you said, it was interesting, the situation, you know, a mix of, okay, let's do an exhibition, but during the pandemic, when we start to think about it, where would be a nice place to do an exhibition during this pandemic? And after some small designing process, we decided to make it in a healthcare center, you know. So we approached the institution, and it was also part of the Secretary of Health of Olinda. And this is interesting point that I want to talk about. When Caribou started in Olinda, the first actor we approached to be part of the project, a part of Procomum and the Gig Network, was the Secretary of Health of Olinda. And this was really important because during the pandemic, and when the pandemic was arriving, we could deliver better our products, you know. And now we are making part of the Glypho partnership. Together with the Secretary of Health, we will donate another 100 glyphos for children, and Casa Cariatura will support with programming, printing, selecting the size and those things that Glypho makes necessary, you know. So this was something really important on that moment. And then we decided to make the exhibition inside one of these hospitals. It didn't work very well in the end because a lot of safety issues during the pandemic, you know. And even though we had all the bureaucratic process ready and everything set to be done, during the assembly of the exhibition, the maintenance supervisor said, no way, we don't want anything here, we need to be very clean with, you know, so we couldn't make the exhibition, the walls and those things, so we bring the exhibition to our makerspace. And for coincidence or not, the main TV channel were there to record about our space and these things, and they record the exhibition. So we had a virtual exhibition on broadcasted in the main TV channel, you know. So this kind of weird situation that just in 2020 we will survive to tell the history of this moment. You see, it's more like that. I know.
Luis, maybe you could show a video of so just to get a sense of Casa Criatura, how it is.
Yes, great idea. I will grab around the video that I have here. It's important to show as well because it's one of the products that we are developing here that are the vegetable sprouts, you know, because we start to think healthcare as a whole, you know, so we are cutting the top of this. Let me play it again just to stop. So, oh, sorry. All right, so we have the model for this, just this small piece of cloth and this other one here. So, and the way of doing it to create your own juice or to create your own morning sprouts to eat, you have it on Welder as well, you know, and you also have how to do aromatherapy pillows that, you know, we develop it also. And this is interesting because in the beginning of the process, during the South to South collaboration, we thought the necessities of the population in healthcare in the South, they are different, you know. Of course, we have all the situations with disabilities, but even with disabilities person, they do get dengue, you know, they do get bad nutrition during childhood. So we have to tackle many different situations when you think about healthcare in the global South. You know, we have to think about malaria. We have to think about open source vaccines and all the things you said. I will search for a nice video here. Just 1 second.
Okay. Should we say goodbye now, Fadia? Or do you want to say your last words? You're muted. Let me unmute you. Okay.
Yes, thank you. I'm very happy to have been here today with both of you. I very much appreciate your work, and it gives me a lot of hope to see that happening because I do a lot of the computer work, and it's so lovely always to hear and see the things that are happening on the ground. So thank you so much, and very much looking forward to see you tomorrow at DOTS, since that's not the live session. So good night, this time for real, I promise.
Sleep well, darling. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye, Fadia. Bye. Talk to you today.
Luis, before you show the video, can you please tell what is GLIFO? Because remember, we are presenting a program here, but not everybody is well acquainted with what we mean. So you said that you are developing a GLIFO, that you're delivering GLIFO to the health secretary. So could you maybe tell what is a GLIFO, please?
Yes, for sure. GLIFO is support for children, and not just children, but with some oh no, with some disability. I don't need the screen now because I showed you and I'll search here. But when you have some kind of disability, it's very difficult, in your hands especially, it's very difficult for you to hold a pen, you know? And not only physical disabilities, but many times neurological disabilities as well, you know, that are classified as physical. And I'm searching for it and talking at the same time. And it was developed by OpenDot. Oh, thank you very much. That is part of the Careables network as well. And it was lovely developed together with the community and doctors during long years. And they made a Kickstart campaign to reach as many people as possible. So they got together with different institutions around the globe to organize donations and got the support for their Kickstart campaign. So here in Olinda, we are, because it's not just to print, you know, because every person has its own needs. So you had to find the best fit and fit in between the models, but you have a software online to select the model for you. It's quite simple. So at Casa Criatura, we will do this bridge, you know, just to get measures, the special needs, and to convert it to the software that is developed by OpenDot, and then bring the tool in a 3D printer. This is Gleeful. And regarding TV Criatura, I'm just finding its channel on YouTube. It's quite exciting. I will show the channel here for you, add to my stream. And please follow our channel here. You probably will find somewhere in the description, if not, it's TV Criatura. So you can see the turban here, the aerosol box we developed, you know, and how to set up your own turban and to protect yourself during these difficult times. And especially because of Careables, we get really worried about the amount of plastic we were delivering to nature, you know. So we are now establishing this process with a group of biologists and fishermen and community education teachers to try to support this reforestation project, you know. So it's 1 hectare, because if you want to care, if we need to care, we need to care for the planet at the same time. And a hub, a makerspace, an innovation lab that works with the kind of technology that we work, laser cut, 3D printer, we deliver too many plastic, too many pollutants on the atmosphere. And we need to care about that as well, you know. So we are trying to care with the plants. We are now cataloging plants, starting this ambiental education with the community, what you have here. And some plants, especially this one here that shows now, we have a lot of traditional medicine plants in Brazil, all around the globe. But in Brazil, we cultivate not also the plants, but the history of it, how to prepare the remedy, you know. So I think this is the next steps we are now reaching in Careables Casa Criatura, you know, how we can care for the nature in a broader perspective. How can we care for ourselves? How can we care for the planet, you know? I think this is our main challenge now at Casa Criatura.
Amazing, Ricardo. Congratulations for your work. And I think you're totally right. And this is why also in the beginning of the pandemic, we got together, me and Ruiz, and we started a series of conversations about health and technology, playing around with the tenses of the verb tenses, so past, future, present, actually the Portuguese tenses, which are a bit more complex than the English tenses. And it was really nice to be hosting this series of conversations with him and a lot of other people from like indigenous communities in Colombia, hackers from Colombia, funders, scientists, philosophers, and artists. It was, for me, I think it was one of the, I don't know, the nice thing that this year happened. We had a lot of people that were together in the comments, commenting and interacting with us. And I think it resonated so well with people because of what you were just saying, of what do we mean by health, you know, where does health begins and ends, you know. I think all this also circular epistemology of, you know, Black people, ancestrality, you know, that health begins with life and end with life as well. And I think capitalism and also turned health into disease. And then when we think about health, we think about medicine, or, you know, or going to a drugstore, yeah, or something. But what does it mean about when we're speaking about health in terms of technology? So what kind of technologies we have here? So we have a big knowledge on medicinal plants, you know, that are coming from, for example, Afro religion, that were brought up by enslaved people, for example, but also from indigenous. But not only, you know, also from, you know, our ancestors. And it's also about health, right? And then, so to me, I think the circular thinking is really helpful for us also to think forward of why such a program as Careables is important and why it has to continue, you know, and how it got shaped so differently in Ghana, Nepal, or Recife, Olinda, or Santos, because what it shaped is, it's also, of course, people, territory, you know, problem, solutions. So you have a specificity. So this, I think it's really nice to, if we think about it as a commons, so you have, when we say commons, we're not saying that everybody is equal, right? So we're speaking about singularities. So we are all quite singular in our contexts, but we do have some commonalities, and we can find our commonalities and share our commonalities and share our learnings. And I think this is, I think, maybe one of the big learnings of Careables also. And I was wondering, Ricardo, maybe could you show a bit, I don't know, did we show already Singapore? Maybe you could show one or two more also to give more, even more diversity to this.
Excellent, excellent. I will share the screen here. We are approaching the end of your session, unfortunately. It's been really nice to talk about it, but I do believe this session doesn't end here, you know. Probably people are commenting here, and we expect to grow the network to get more and more people involved in this kind of activities, you know, because just like I said, this network, we don't work for Careables, we don't work on Careables. We support and we are supported by, you know. So I think it's quite interesting to leave it as in a ramp, you know, to get it raw and to understand how we keep caring further and further in this context of such adversities that we are living now, right? Just finishing this movie here, I want to thank to Saad that shared everything from Engineering Good, you know, that is the Maker Lab in Singapore doing these things. Of course, he's not alone. There's also a big network of engineering doing good. So,
We need them. We need them.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Thanks again, Georgia. Thanks, Fad. You are not here, but you are in our hearts.
Thank you, Rui, for everything. Thank you for the whole team of Caribous. And please don't miss Dots. We have a whole program still today. We are in the second day of Dots, but there's still the whole day and everything. Things will be also in the Geek channel. If you want to access more about our work, Procomum also has a YouTube channel, Instituto Procomum. We also have Instagram @Procomum. Procomum is PROCOMUM. And also we have Facebook, of course. And if you want to know more about Geek, we are Geek in the website. And Ricardo already shared his TV Criatura. They also have an Instagram @Casa Criatura. CASASRIATURA, Casa Criatura. And it's always a pleasure to be around you.
Yes, me too. Bye-bye. Bye-bye, people.
Bye.
Salve Oxalá! Salve o grande Criador! Tchauê, babá! E Oxalá criou a terra, Oxalá criou o mar, Oxalá criou o mundo, onde reinou os orixás.
Sessions here on our YouTube live stream today. I very much hope you enjoyed them, and I hope you'll be joining us this afternoon in our meetups and workshops. Do check out the program. It's also where you can register on globalinnovationgathering.org, and take care of yourselves, and I hope to see you all soon.